Hello, friends. I'm Shashi, and welcome to the last episode of e-logue for this year. We've reached the fag end of the year, and generally, this is the time when we usually go on a reflective mode. We try to disengage ourselves and look at the year that is passing and how it has been for us objectively. This is also the time when we take a pause and reassess our choices, decisions, and prepare ourselves for the next lap of opportunities and challenges that's waiting for us. We'll talk about all these challenges and such opportunities with our guest for today, that is Anjali Kispotta. She's a senior editorial coordinator at XLRI, Jamshedpur. Let's welcome her. Hello, Anjali, and welcome to my podcast, eLoog.
Hi, Shashi. Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure's all mine. So, how have you been?
I've been all right, let's say, and this year has been a roller coaster ride. I guess it's been for all of us.
Very true. And generally, like towards the end of a year, we get into this reflective mode, and we kind of begin to assess the good and the bad aspect, how it went for us. So, how it happens for you in the sense you also get into this reflective mode and you begin assessing the year, or you just it's just a change in the date and the calendar, and you just slip into the new year.
For me, actually, it has been like every year, I would say, it has been a year which has had its own share of ups and downs. And since this year has been very, very different from me because of the losses that I've gone through, and of course, the situation in which we all are, the pandemic. We've all gone through this COVID experience, but for me, because I've closely observed the lockdown phase and the loss in the time of COVID, the anxiety that I've gone through, so it has made my year a lot more different, a lot more different from other years that I've gone through. So it's been like that.
How was this COVID period for you, especially the month of September, when a few members of your family were found to be COVID positive?
What happened was that we stay in a joint family kind of a setup, and we are two families in the same building. My in-laws' families and ours. So in my in-laws' families, my brother-in-law was tested positive, and gradually the entire family was tested positive. And after that, the entire house was in lockdown. Uh, it was sealed, basically the entire house was sealed, our front gate as well as our back door entrance, and as well as the entire lane so it was we were cooped inside the house, and we had kids. So we didn't know how to deal with the situation, and it all happened so suddenly. We were just thinking of getting our monthly ration, and we had kids to manage. So it was the entire phase was very anxious, and we were scared that since the family which was in the first floor, our in-laws families, the entire family had the entire family was positive. So we were fearful that it was only a matter of time that we would also contract COVID, and we had already started planning that if so happens, what way are we going to deal with it, because we have kids at home. So are we going to, because over here in Jamshedpur we also have facility, we at that point of time we had facilities wherein hotels were converted into COVID, they were providing rooms for COVID patients. So we had thought that maybe we'll go in isolation in hotels if any one of us in the family, in our family, were tested positive. So it was a period of anxious, we were scared, we were fearful, and it was very weird that we were scared of our own people. Our in-laws, they just stay in first floor, and we stayed with them for so many years, and we were scared of them. So it was really a very weird phase at that point of time.
So how did the children react? Because for children, being confined in the house, like within the four walls for like those many days, it's very very difficult. So how did kids react to that?
Kids were not in I think they didn't understand much of it. First of all, they didn't understand much of it, what was happening. All we could they cannot even express in words. So it,
True.
what I felt was that they were getting very frustrated, and that frustration would come out in forms of tantrums, in forms of anger, in forms of unnecessarily being cranky. So it came out like that because we were so scared. At that point of time, we did not even allow the kids to go up to the terrace. We was that we were that scared and so anxious that what if the our in-laws, if they come up or if they have some work to go up on the terrace. We did not even allow them to go up to the terrace, which usually is their playground. In this COVID period, we don't take them outside, so terrace is their playground. So we had not even allowed them to go up to the terrace for those 7 to 8 days in which we were the house was sealed.
What precautions you took as your building was sealed and then later even your lane was sealed?
The precaution we had fixed in our family, what we had done is that we had fixed only two people who would step out of house, like my husband and his elder brother. We had fixed that any work we have, or if we ask somebody to deliver ration or deliver some food items or any particular essentials, if we would ask them to deliver, so only these two people would step out of house, that too with proper gloves and mask and everything. So and when they return, they would sanitize themselves. So none of us moved out of the house. Only none of us would go out, step out of the house. Only these two people were assigned to go out and bring articles or whatever necessary items we had. So this is how we had allotted the work. And then the regular other immunity building things which were going on at that time, drink kada and all those things, we used to do that. We tried not to come in contact with our in-laws who were tested positive at that point of time.
How did your in laws take care of themselves? Were they asymptomatic or did they show some serious symptoms?
My brother-in-law, who was the first person to contract the infection, he was symptomatic, but his other family members were asymptomatic. So he was showing symptoms of severe coughing, fever, and extreme weakness. So he had the symptoms, but his other family members, his wife and his two kids, they were absolutely asymptomatic. So they were also taking as much precaution as possible. So they had locked their gates, and they had confined them inside the house, and they had requested their other relatives to deliver them food and other essentials, whatever was required. They would pull it up from their balcony. So that way they were taking precautions so that it does not spread.
Okay. So now, like everybody is fine and healthy.
Yes, yes, yes. Now everybody is fine. So now we all are negative.
And okay, what were the other challenges that you had to face, in this year?
The other big blow that came this year was just when we were just when the lockdown phase was beginning, just when we had come to know that COVID, people are getting infected in India with COVID, and it is spreading fast. It's spreading faster than what the government had anticipated, and the government was thinking of clamping a lockdown. So that was the time when my mother, when I lost my mother. She passed away on 23rd of March, and the same day we were getting news. The news was flashing everywhere that probably the PM is going to declare a complete lockdown. So we were completely in a very anxious situation that something a big we are undergoing a big loss, uh, and in a moment, in a time when there is a possibility of a lockdown, and there is a possibility of there is something, a pandemic happening. It was a big blow that came to our family in the month of March. So we nobody was prepared for it. Of course, mother was suffering from cancer. She was a cancer patient. So we were still thinking of, we were in the phase that what treat and her cancer was detected only in February. So we were in a phase of when we were in a phase of thinking how should we go about her treatment, where should we take her, and things like that were going on in our mind. And suddenly in March her condition worsened, and on 23rd she breathed her last. But that the day of 23rd of March was we didn't know what to do. We didn't know whether to grieve or whether to prepare for her prepare for her funeral, which had to be done as early as possible, so that we don't get in a situation where we are not able to get enough people to even take her body to the graveyard. So it was a very anxious and a very disturbing situation. And we come from a Christian, we are Roman Catholics, we're a Christian family. So for us, when somebody passes away, it is we take the body to the church, and where the blessings are done. So for my mother, the church, by that time they had closed down the churches, and for my mother, we could not even take her body to the church. So it was such a situation that we didn't know how to deal with it. We didn't know how to. We were just thinking that. Uh, how soon and how early can we, take her to the graveyard and do the funeral ceremony with minimal of movement, like, so that there isn't much movement, there isn't much crowd. So many things we had to keep in mind at that point of time. That And it was already, I think, section 144 had been clamped down. So we were in that phase that we had several conditions on our mind, that we didn't have to create too much of crowd, we didn't have to we didn't want to make too much of movement, and then the catching of infection, the fear of catching the infection was there. And because I'm a mother and I have two kids at home, so I was even more cautious and even more uh, a bit fearful too, that if I'm going out of house so many times, and my frequent visit to hospital, my I might catch infection, and it can come home too. So those were the things that we were grappling with, we're trying to deal with.
I'm really sorry to hear about your mother. My heartfelt condolences to you. Um, and I'm sure you had a real tough time, and it's very difficult to deal with grief and losing especially your parents. It's, I mean, because there's nobody who can replace them. So how did you deal with that grief? Because already you were under so much of pressure, and with the corona situation kind of complicating everything else. So because in moments like this, it becomes very difficult to cope with your personal pain.
The thing was that with this situation, particularly in this situation that we were caught, so obviously we were anxious. We didn't know what to do about it, and the I was grieving, and I was, but the thing that hurt me most was that. Uh, uh, there was so much, generally in the last rites, especially for your parents, your closed ones, in the last rites you want to do so many things. You want to you want the last rites, the funeral ceremony to be to, your last offer to your parents, to do so many things. But I, in that moment, in that time, I couldn't do any of it. I couldn't do any of it. I couldn't reach out to my relatives, to my close relatives, which, in had it been in a normal situation, had it not been a pandemic situation, uh, I I would have, I am sure I would have been able to reach out to my relatives. But at that point of time, so many of our relatives couldn't come, couldn't be with us, and I I was not even in a situation to reach out to them, to, and I was, I couldn't ask them to come. The borders were closed, I couldn't ask them to come. So I try so that was the situation. And so I tried, given that it was like that, I tried, in order to cope with my grief, I tried to keep myself busy. I tried to give myself as much time to heal. I was constantly in conversation with my close relatives, my father's, my bua, my aunts, my uncles. I was constantly in conversation with them, and letting them know that how much I missed, and letting them know that, the uh, losing my mother, and whatever pain, whatever grief I'm going through, it was, I tried to let out all those grief, all those emotions, to all, to my closest relatives, who were there to listen to me, who were there, who were able to understand, empathize, as well as sympathize with my pain. Because in each of our families we've lost people, and at the same time, my close relatives, they really knew my mother, and they could, they could also, share their grief, share their pain with me. And in those conversations, in those, in those moments, in those conversations, I really found strength. And I found that, talking to my relatives, talking to those people who knew my mother very closely, apart from me, apart from my brother, talking to them brought real, gave me real strength, made me feel, gave me solace and all that. So that was my way of dealing with the grief that I was going through. And then again, since I've lost both my parents. First, I lost my dad 3-4 years back, and now it was my mom. So with both of them, I realized that I with grief you need to give yourself time to heal. And grief is not something that you need to, you can rush with it, or you can, it's neither something that you can rush with, neither something that you can suppress. So it's always best to give yourself time. Uh, and also to keep your, I also try to keep myself busy, so that I don't get too much entangled and drowned in it, because I also have kids to take care of. So this was my mechanism, with this was my way of dealing with the entire situation that I was going through.
I'm glad that you received all the support and help from your family and friends. During such times, generally others feel helpless. Sometimes we do not know how to comfort the one who's grieving or how to reach out to them. And especially during this pandemic, when we're supposed to maintain social distance, we cannot even express ourselves physically. We cannot give a hug or let them cry their hearts out. Even when we try to comfort them with words, those words don't seem enough, or they may even seem hollow. So, how can we help as many have lost their near and dear ones during this pandemic period?
I think the best way to comfort or to provide solace is, I would say, a heartfelt conversation with the person. Because no matter how much we say that, words may seem hollow, and no matter how much we may say that, but at this point of time and in this phase, in this pandemic situation, we don't have anything more than words to reach out to people. We cannot visit them, we cannot uh, give them a hug, and comfort them through our physical presence. So the best that we have is through through words, through heartfelt conversation. Even if somebody calls you, and maybe they might not have too much of time to to have a long conversation, but at least a hello, at least just ensuring that the other person is okay, other person is uh, is okay, is dealing with things. Just maybe even a small conversation helps, just to know that that there are people who care for you, just to know that there are people there who you can reach out to whenever you want to. So to to opening, I would say the best way to help would be to keeping yourself open to other people, to letting them know that you are there, to you are there, and the other person can reach out to you. Just that very thought, just very that very effort really helps. To me it really helps.
When you look at this year, like what has been your takeaways in the sense your learnings and what you felt that like you had to unlearn, during this year.
During this year, I would say my learning for this year would be that I've realized that we our endurance power is more than what we actually think of it. We can endure. Each one of us is strong in their own way, and uh, I would say that in this year, I have not only me, but I've also seen other people lose their, go through personal loss, and I've also seen them, standing strong and facing all the problems and enduring it. So that has also given me a lot of strength. So I've this year has been for a lot of us, we see this year, a pandemic year, a problematic year, but I also see this year as a year where I've learned that I'm strong, where I've learned that I can endure more than what I think I can. This is also a year where I've seen other people go through losses, and I've learned from them to to how to be strong in such situations. So this has really been a year of that. And one thing that I should unlearn is being stagnant, or being not allowing myself to move on. Situations happen, things happen, and not allowing yourself to move on is something I should unlearn, I should give away.
We are a few days away from stepping into 2021. So, what are you looking forward to?
Vaccination.
Oh, yes.
For 2021, I'm I'm looking forward to new hope and new projects professionally and in my personal life. And there are certain things that I want to start, I want to begin. So those are the new projects that I'm looking forward to. And I'm also looking forward to you know re- you know revising, or to say refreshing my way of looking at life, looking at refreshing my perspective, refreshing my way of looking at life. And given that we've gone through a pandemic here, to to begin with 2021 should be something, we keep this experience of 2020 close to our heart, and begin the new year with a fresh perspective, refreshed point of view, refreshed outlook, which is seasoned by the pandemic situation that we've gone through. So somehow I just don't want to let this pandemic year go out of my life without extracting any learning, or without extracting any learning or any feedback from it. So that's how I look ahead at this point of time.
It was wonderful talking with you, Anjali, and seeing you being optimistic and strong even in your weakest or dark moments. What's amazing is that you didn't allow things to bog you down with negativity. You displayed extraordinary courage in dealing with the events, especially in the way they unfolded in your life, are very inspiring. The way you dealt with every challenge that was thrown at you and yet be hopeful is quite commendable.
Wish you all the best. And
Thank you, Shashi.
and continue with that positive streak and we'll keep learning from one another. So and I
Yes.
hope that you join us in 2021 for another round of conversation, and then we can continue with this story of hope, positivity, and newness.
Thank you. Thank you, Shashi.